$4,000.
Do we know of any needs over there?
I think
I'm sure there's a
what we're
ton.
seeing is a lot of, from my know, just this past year. It seems like Dave Schultz has been working on the garage door. As soon as one goes down, one needs to be
We had
fixed.
older doors at the Southside Station that ended up
Yeah,
living their life, and so
Yeah.
they were replaced and updated.
yeah, so that's what I'm thinking in terms of capital improvement. If,
Yeah.
A fire door, gosh, it's gotta be $4,000 to get a new one.
Yeah, well, and we replaced all the motors and tracks this past year on all Southside Station. So,
All right.
janitorial supplies, his recommendation was for $2,000. Seems to be within spec for activity. Dues and memberships, there again, $2,000 per his. Equipment, general, I don't know, just another, but, firemen, they got all kinds of equipment. So I'm thinking when I read this, it's, and maybe you could help me out, but equipment, I'm thinking simply hand tools, axes,
When I see that, I think snow shovels,
So that's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
I'm
benign.
thinking
garden
shovels.
hose, just
Yeah,
little
benign.
things for the building itself.
Yeah.
so I would tend to agree, we got activity at $1,469, his proposal was for $2,000. I'd say either 2,000 or 1,500.
That's probably good.
Okay, 2,000. Physicals, he bumped that up to $1,000. I think that's a safe number, because I don't know what year rotation we're at with our full-timers, but isn't it every,
Last year, we had physicals,
so then you're on a 3-year cycle, is it?
I believe it's every other.
Every other, so biannual. So we're seeing the high number for activity under this year, so this year should be a low year, besides bringing in potential new paid on call.
Correct.
So, there again, I think 1,000, let's be safe on that. Non-emergent billing,
Did we give that up?
Is that the MHR?
Correct.
this
What
is
we pay for
MHR.
them?
Correct.
Pardon me?
His proposal, and it corresponds to why he had 0 in non-emergency transport, he had 0. I would say, let's look at this and be realistic. I would say, let's take it to 20,000. Just, because we're at almost, we're at 16,493 year to date. We could say, there's really not gonna be much going on, so 17,000?
I think 17 is better.
My first thought was 18, just because of the increase that we're seeing in the call line already. It's per report that we get charged for.
Yeah.
So if we see an increase in call line, we're gonna see.
But yeah, I know where you're going at a monthly basis, but we also know that there's lulls too, so it's hard
There
to
is.
anticipate an actual accrual of an increase with just 1 month's data. So let's just leave it at 17 for now,
Well, based off of yearly numbers, last year we were up over, I believe, 460 runs from the year before.
So for non-emergency billing, $17,000. Hydrant rental, okay. So-
Where's Marie?
Marie, okay, I did have a conversation. So this is unique. So she told me it's not supposed to be in the fire department. And you've talked to her about this several times, so if you have any insight, chime in.
I don't know what she's talking about.
Because and even before I took office, this line item, which is an expenditure to the fire department, and her explanation is, it is from the general fund to the water fund.
But they passed it through, but we used to be in the general fund.
So, and we can't do anything with removing or adding line items. So the conundrum lies, because our CPA hates this line item, because on the other end, as a revenue, we have no expenditure in that department to disperse funds. So Ms. Twite's comments, during lunch were that this is solely for people within the township that have a fire that aren't directly on infrastructure to share water purchasing costs. But Nate Thompson's earlier predecessor always stated, even previous to this board and to this board, that this line item was solely for the purchase of hydrants
And the maintenance.
and the maintenance. But my predecessor stated it is to offset the cost of water consumption for township residents.
So for example, does that mean that if I don't have a hydrant near my house, more than 1,000 feet away from my house, that somebody's gotta fill up, gotta go to a hydrant, fill up a tanker truck, take it to the scene, dump it into the pool, and come back and grab some more water
Correct.
until it's out?
Correct. Jim Kranzlin cannot figure out why one department, and I kinda see to offset water purchasing costs from the DPW, but it is, and has historically been set up in an unfathomable, illogical way. I can see sharing, yes, Mr. Foley.
Going back a ways, it was explained to me, and it used to be $50,000 or $55,000, but it was the fire department was charged this fee because of the use of using the fire hydrants for practices and flushes and washes to compensate for the usage of the water.
That's what I remember too.
And
So-
that was a income to the water fund.
Right.
So
Does the
Fire-
fire department do the flushes? I'm sorry.
So the fire department was charged with this, but back then it was out of the general fund.
Right.
So now it's under its own fund. What's changed? I mean, it's one comes out of one goes in the other.
I mean, at $25,000, just so everybody can wrap their minds
It
around
used to be
this.
50, 55.
It used to be 55, and I will explain why that there again was reduced, because nobody could really give a comprehensible answer to this conundrum. So it went from 55,000 to 25, because I took last year's budget, I took 30,000 of that hydrant rental and put it towards the fire department to go for grants. Because it was always brought to my attention that this is for the sole purchase of new fire hydrants. So I'm seeing the bigger picture, but now we just have to make sure when we get into, but at 25,000, I'm getting off point. Our current rate of what we're being charged,
615,
14, was it?
11, 611, 614, so.
That is 4,100 gallons of water.
That's 41,000.
No, it's
That
gotta
would
be
be,
more than that.
that would be, no, for $25,000.
4,200 gallons?
491.653 gallons.
1,000 gallons. It's 611 per
Yeah,
thousand.
Oh,
I was
geez,
gonna
yeah, I'm
say
doing-
It's gotta be a
wow.
decimal point up.
Yeah.
So yes. My apology. Yes, I forgot the K
41,000
gallons.
That's, you flush that down real quick.
Yeah, I mean, that's
So that's not only,
not out of whack. I mean, I think we should actually, if we're gonna keep this active, then that number, we could maybe add a little bit more description to hydrant rental.
I have a
Water
question.
consumption maybe for fire purposes, but,
So, if the water fund gets $55,000 in revenue from the public safety fund, that has to be an expense of 55,000 in water to give it to, or in public safety to give it to water.
an expense in public safety, revenue and water.
Right, but you're talking about 55,000.
No, it's actually.
And then you're talking about 25,000.
Okay, so historically, it was, the first year that we took office,
Right.
it was at $55,000.
Right.
This past year, it dropped.
It dropped 30 because 30 went to looking for grants, which then got consumed in not grant activity. So it's currently at 25,000. It was proposed, it got proposed by Dave at 0, which, why do they want to pay for a hydrant run? I see their point too. But there is a cost associated with the water use for, the city doesn't give us a break when there's a fire. They may not account for their consumption on their fires, which we as a board know to be true. But we have to, since we're getting directly billed, we have to account for that consumption somewhere.
And
That's what's been there since I've been on this board, that it was there, but it was 55, now it's down to 25, and I think that's fair.
But the thing that we're giving water 55
Look ahead a couple of.
from public safety.
If you
So
look
if
at-
there's not, there has to be 55 in public safety to give to water, not 25 or am I not
No,
understanding?
both of
this?
those numbers, I think right now you're getting 55, because that's what it used to be on this line.
Well, that's what it is in water,
Is
as
it
a revenue,
currently?
right,
Okay, so
That's
that's
what
whatever number we set, they have to correlate.
match, that's
So,
my
yeah,
point,
okay.
yeah, that was my point.
So, there again,
They do match because it's, the corrected number is in there.
Yeah.
I put
So,
them back and
so
forth.
we have to put 25.
correct, as an expense.
Right.
Yes,
So you've already done water, and you put 25 there, so you're saying we're gonna do 25 here.
Yeah, so the revenue from the water
And
department
it
is
is
gonna
in
set
there.
at 25, so the rest of
Yeah,
it's
I just
spent.
saw it, I'm sorry.
Correct.
Okay.
I
No.
wasn't, I just
But,
had
I mean,
55 in my head.
so-
Yeah, that makes sense,
If we can, because I would
25.
greatly appreciate if we can actually complete
Let's
this.
rock and roll.
Equipment and furniture, he has at 1,500. I concur with that. Vehicle maintenance, he put at 0. Or no, he put it at 30, oh geez Louise, he had it at 30,000. I agree with that, one of the big killers is that number's high because we're dealing with not top of the line, more semi 10 years new equipment.
Age infrastructure.
Very much so. So as with this new equipment grant, when they cycle in newer vehicles, obviously, there should be a downtick of maintenance costs. So this proposal was at 30,000. I tend to agree with that, because if we're at 28,652 for this year, knowing how many issues that we've had, that
We
should,
could simply lower that number by purchasing new equipment.
that's where this is going. So, the next line item, is for our annual payment for engine 2, which is at 38,855. I think just leaving it at 39 is, or else we can make it exact 38,855. So 38,855.
Yeah, if that's the payment, that's the payment.
And then here's the expenditure for the truant officer, 38,606.
Okay.
Now we are getting into
Hot water.
agua.
Did we
So-
do their life insurance?
Let's go back up and
I
just
don't
make sure.
remember telling you guys that.
You
This-
want?
Yeah,
Life insurance, we have at $800 one.
832.
So I will change that, and I'll make sure that everybody gets, before we leave today, everything that we've done. Because,
I just wanted to make sure because I didn't remember reading that.
okay, so that covers, for all intent and purpose, your department. So,
Thank you,
So
Mr.
for
Fair.
the ones that I missed, was there any changes like from workers' comp up?
oh yeah, there was a jump there at work comp, yeah, there was a
You
jump.
see it's at 45, but we're at 46.2 now.
Probably, I'm really, really, really hoping that the experience mod goes down.
Right?
Yeah.
But we can't assume that right now, so we put it at 50.
So yeah, we put it at 50.
Do I want new health?
No, do you wanna know what the health insurance are? $104,317.
Yeah, for Blue Cross.
Per person?
104,000 per person, you have some health concerns.
14,000.
Maybe you should not be actively fighting fires any longer.
Basically,
Holy toots.
You just drop the township.
And then the pension went, 31 to 35.
Okay.
Okay.
And I see.
And this-
All insurance, what is?
Well, and Tom,
Yes, sir.
once we're done with this, this is gonna be on our website, hard copies are gonna be, so that way you don't have to,
Sure.
I'm hoping that we can get this wrapped up.
Yeah, well, I understand your own.
So yeah, no, it should be available today, so that way you don't have to rush in. So we're moving on to, water department. When we get in here to, water department, which is into
592.
592. Hey Cash, could you see if Nate Thomas?
Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
Thank you very much, stretch those legs. Your calves look like they're getting tense.
Yeah, great.
He needed a boy.
Yeah. So yeah, we are, kind of waiting, we'll be starting. We've already made recommendations, everything seems to be pretty sound. There will be discussion at the 25th about a couple things that, we'll have to address moving forward. We won't touch on that right now. Oh, we had some questions. Okay,
Okay.
so if you want, thank you very much, Tom. But like I said, hey Tom, we'll have some hard copies and, like I said, it will be on our website as well.
Okay,
So that way you can look at everything.
I'll do my best to stop over at the end of the day before you guys take off to get a hard copy.
Yeah, I'll make sure that we'll have them all.
Tom, have you heard anything on the chief?
Supposedly it's supposed to be discharged sometime later today,
Good.
Painting.
so, should be heading home, but he's got a
That's
lot
where
of
we're
work
at.
in recovery.
What happened? Don't know.
I've heard several different things, so I haven't talked to him directly.
Yeah.
I will.
Most definitely. Thank you very much.
Yep.
So water, do you have it all done except for the salary part?
Exactly, and when,
Oh, go ahead.
There you go.
I mean, hey,
He's on his game.
The provisional portion, I don't
what
know,
line item?
I didn't see in their revenue, right?
59200061300.
Where we have the 12,000, that was the one where we need to remove that.
Okay,
That was in, I know it was said that we cannot actually remove the line item itself, correct? But we can't fund that because it's a revenue.
We're not
So-
charging them anymore.
Right, so by showing that we are charging a revenue in, or getting a revenue from that, it's,
yeah, agreed.
so we just need to essentially put that at zero,
Yeah.
take that
Okay,
12,000.
and I also did have, when we get in, because when we went through it last time, we had a couple questions about,
In water?
delinquent water bills, and Michelle gave me her
Yeah, 'cause
notes
I
in terms of special assessment combined, and it has an explanation there. So if you want to continue, water sales, we've had that conversation with our attorneys. It seemed like all of the numbers presented thus far, outside of, thank you for the correction on the provisional water funds. I would like to make sure, where is the hydrant rental, is that, so we're even Steven there on both ends?
And now, how are we, as far as the revenue, because we have the revenue, we were gonna, sorry, I didn't get a chance to look at this. Did we decide how we're gonna play that as far as the operating portion of that? Because we can't add any more line items.
Not for until we get the green light.
But is it possible to rename existing, did we decide that was okay?
I don't know,
We did talk about that.
we did talk about it, I have not explored it, I've been focusing on the numbers and not the renaming.
I just, if we wanted to do the hydrant rental expense portion, like if we could just, if that's a possibility, then, just so that we could drop it into.
I don't think we can at this point,
Yeah.
Okay.
because it
And I
would be,
don't, I think we talked about changing the names as not a good idea, because it could cause some
Historical.
inconsistent
So,
problems.
well, I know what we did, what the plan was that if that money did drop, then from that it would go into, maintenance.
but there again, historically,
Yeah, I don't think we.
my predecessor informed me that you cannot, it is for water distribution at fire scenes. It is, now that the fire department's in their own fund as a public safety fund,
Okay,
that is to offset the purchase costs from, so you wouldn't be able to take that as a revenue and put it into an expenditure. It
okay,
is to offset the consumption.
okay, see, I
of-
wasn't aware of
so,
that,
yeah.
so, okay.
Did I peg it? Okay, wonderful.
So the hydrant rental is a revenue from the fire department.
And it's only a revenue for, the only,
Paper,
it's a paper revenue.
Right, but is there also an expense?
paper expense.
That's
on
what
the
he
fire
was-
department.
But I know I wasn't seeing it.
It's an
No,
expense
it's
to the
not.
fire department.
Oh, right, gotcha.
Okay,
Okay, so
okay, so
moving on to special assessment combined. This is one of the questions that we had. Let me hear, special assessment combined. What happens here is that it is a complete wash. All I have is this activity report, that Michelle provided me with. Basically, we have a balance in credits that equal dollars for dollars. So it's
Paper transfer.
another paper transfer. So special assessment combined should really actually show as a revenue and an expenditure at 167,640 or 54, which is our activity year to date. That's how, and were you privy to that conversation, Ms. Damon?
No.
Okay,
It's a
so,
similar scenario where what comes in is already accounted for and it's a wash. So if we know that our activity is at 167,654, I would anticipate it being that or there again, as special assessments age, it should show a rate of depreciation. So maybe even just 165 because people are gonna pay off their special assessments and
that's what the combined is, the US 23 self-project or the payments that are made.
correct.
Okay.
So
160, you don't use this 160.
I would either say use the exact number of 167,654 or a generic slightly less at 165 even, because I know
65 you're doing?
165 even. Because I just know through various other calls on the 23 South Corridor, some of the people have actually opted to come in and make full payments on their special assessment so that they can see a downtick on their taxation.
Mhm. Or they wanna sell or.
Yeah. Which leads us to the next active, which is new construction, water UB. We left it at 800. Do you see anything that we've already kind of discussed that needs to be fluctuated one way or another? Nate? We had it proposed at 800. Leave it at 800.
No, yeah, that's got other stuff,
Oh.
mostly.
yeah, just because we didn't know.
Okay.
Some of these, I completely honest, didn't really even understand why we did.
No, we did all these, right?
We already did. I'm just
Yeah, yeah.
since he's
Oh,
here, we're
okay,
just
gotcha.
quickly.
I was gonna say, I wonder if I was having a deja vu.
No.
But they
So,
weren't
but-
plugged in.
They, well, no, because this is, it was proposed at 800 again, but right now it's at a recommended of 0, that's why I asked.
And we're going to the 800.
To 800 and leave it, the next two at 800, that way. Cause some years we've seen activity, some we don't, so I don't know if that's just a function of BSNA that we need to address.
I love the next one.
Infiltration charge, that stayed the same. Water tower rental fees, we discussed that that will be an increase. Interest earned, left at 3,500. Delinquent water bills on tax, proposed at 15,000. There again, you never know how many, I know that we have some people that allow their water bill or sewer bill to go directly to taxes, but how many every year?
Yeah, so you're right, probably, if you leave it at zero, and if we get
And we get some.
$8,000 of income, then we get some.
But you're gonna get some.
But if you leave it at zero, then everything is just a gift from that point forward.
So, moving on to the 23 South Water Project, there again, I would look at taking that to that 165,000, which there was the special assessment combined, because that's where,
But no, wait a second, that would not be the offsetting expense.
no, it would not be, I just corrected myself in my thoughts. We have it at 200,000. I think this is what's being phased down as a revenue, is there again, we need to get through the chart or change of accounts, because there's a lot of line items that are redundant.
So would this have been, was there a special assessment on US 23 South?
Correct.
somewhere? Oh, okay. Okay.
Yes,
But
from
this
South Parker's
money-
Point to the end of our jurisdiction at Tim Road, Tim Drive.
This is money people pay on their taxes for their assessments.
Strictly for the 23 South,
Correct.
and the other one is a combined, so it's
The
more
other
than
one
just.
is if somebody wants, if they just pay it off. I owe $4,000, when I come in to pay that sucker off.
Oh, that's back.
That's
we've
the
done same
combined.
thing here too.
Yeah.
The other one is the payment, so.
And you can see that this is going down considerably in terms of, so I mean, we have it at 200,000, I think that's extremely high.
Yeah.
I would cut that in half and still consider that safe and potentially high.
All right, but let me understand, that 165 on a line item above us has nothing to do with the revenue stream that would be diminishing from US 23 South project.
No, one is, these people make their
I-
$900 payments on their
Okay,
taxes
but
every
what
year.
are- What are those special assessments? Where are they specifically? Are they,
US 23, it's a special assessment for US 23 people that live in that stretch that pay the special assessment on their taxes every year.
so,
Around
so,
900 and
so
some dollars.
could you pay off your assessment? and
That's
it
what
would
the
go-
other number's for.
Yeah.
That's
The
what-
other number, the number above it, the combined, is if, hey, I wanna sell my house, or I wanna pay the,
But then
this,
why would that go up?
why would what go up?
The 160, why would it go from 125 to 165?
That, I don't know, I didn't come up with the 165 number.
I came up with 125. I was looking at the activity
Oh, I
date.
thought we, okay,
I
so,
wrote 165.
That was just a proposed.
okay, but wait a second. That would be a diminishing income.
Right.
It wouldn't go up.
All special
No.
assessments
Right,
will
exactly.
continue.
So,
Right, that's
so.
It
so-
would be an income to us.
No, the outstanding debt, like in a mortgage, will go down.
Right.
So if this is a mortgage, this is gonna go down. And so the 165, that special assessment isn't gonna go up unless somebody comes along and just says, here, I just wanna get rid of it.
Instead of $900 a year,
Right,
I'm
here's
gonna pay
my
off
$3,000.
my
Whatever,
total payment of $14,000.
which still takes me back to US 23 South project. If those are combined into that 165, then we wouldn't wanna put any number. Except for the fact that it's a continuing payment, right?
Continue.
Okay, so this would be a diminished number.
That's where I was.
Okay, good.
I'm looking at 200,000. I would cut that in half and
Okay.
still say we're
Okay, I
erring
just
on the
wanna
safe
make-
side.
I just wanna make sure my brain is clicking in the right
So
direction.
is 165 still good for the up top?
Yes, on the
Okay.
combined.
Okay.
And then it would be 100,000.
For the project.
Yes. Water meters, was at $7,500.
Well, you gotta do, like Russell Court and Lay Road, they also pay, I mean, I know it's a little bit, but that's also the payments on their special assessments. I mean, I know it's a little bit of money, but
haven't those been
Satisfied?
satisfied though?
not yet. They're
Not
still,
100%?
no, they're still hanging out there.
So, $500 for Russell Court,
Or do even $450.
Why don't you just go 200 on each? Because again, if we get more than $200, that's,
Because I
Benefits
think
less.
Lake Road might be smaller than Russell Court, I'm not sure.
it is,
so 200 on one,
200.
200 on the other?
yeah.
What was that, 200?
200 for line item 5920006710001 Russell Court Water Project, $200. The following line item, Lake Road Sewer Project, $50. Water meters was recommended through initial discussion with Nate to go to 7,500, and if we eclipse that, wonderful. Scrap metal, that remained consistent. Now down to salaries on line item 5921007020000. After transfer out 592100702.
He's right.
We've already had the discussion about the second line item and of $75,000, but one thing I wanted to state at this point in time is, as per the introduction of utilizing 3 part-time people from NEMRA, this would be the avenue to hire those individuals and to account for payments.
Under what line?
Under salaries payable laborers,
Okay.
for Department of Public Works. They came and gave a presentation about utilizing high efficiency, low needs individuals for, park cleanup, bypass, like
Should be
minimal.
3 people at minimum wage.
I just pulled out and I had one where at lunch.
Great idea.
I think it's a wonderful,
I think it's a
idea,
great
service.
idea.
I do too. Well, we had spoke about, utilizing maybe like a summer student program, kind of like the city does or something. So, I mean, essentially this would fulfill that, and it would give you extra help to do those,
Yeah.
some of the things that, with our
Hey.
limited amount of personnel, that we would be able to utilize them
So-
to do that kind of work. at
So
first.
that
As long as they're
being said,
working within their abilities.
exactly.
Yeah.
And they have job coaches, exactly.
This program.
Correct. So I had Dana pull up what is the new federal minimum wage, which was requested, that starts March 29th, they changed it? The new minimum wage rate is at $9.45 an hour. 20 hours a week, and that's probably on the high side, as they mentioned, there will always be a fluctuation. Would be $189.
For 24, that's for 20 hours.
For 20 hours. So for 3 people at 20 hours, the potential would be at $29,484 for a year.
But we aren't gonna have them for a year. I think we're only gonna have them part-time in the summer.
Yeah.
Or
I
as
mean-
long as we can.
As long as we can,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
But, I mean, why not have it, in wintertime, if painting needs to take,
That's
to-
fine.
this to afford.
I totally.
I just figured that this was the
So
avenue.
where are you building that in?
I would say under salary payable laborers.
Yes.
That's the only place it makes sense.
So you're saying we add 30 to that?
We're not responsible for, workman's comp or anything.
No.
So it's essentially.
So you're saying
we're
that goes
contracting
to
out,
130?
and I mean, really, the busy time would be like May through October timeframe, that
So-
time period, but yeah.
Yeah.
Great idea.
So that would take that number, I would recommend 130 grand. And then there again, we already discussed director salary. And if we're gonna be bringing in talent, to bring it up to the number that we discussed.
I think we should start with 60, but that's just my opinion.
I
And
mean,
60 is still
might
a
be-
$20,000 increase.
We might be able to hire somebody at 60,
I
but
mean, we might.
if we don't have it available, then this is the budgetary, if we need to amend it in the first quarter and reduce it, then that's where that amendment takes place.
Now remember, if we budget high and we hire somebody for less, That's
we're
good.
good, right, I know.
And I don't think you can go less than 65, to be honest. Nobody's gonna take it.
So we're gonna
We need
budget
to have cushion.
75 and hope for,
65.
Well, yeah. And if it's 72 and we have somebody that has all the licensures, motivation, and is a wonderful manager, wonderful. I just don't want us to be hamstrung in that process. Into clerical, this was the 3%. I believe it is, that's Kelly's. That's right, isn't it, Nate?
We're looking at the
32,960.
yeah.
Yeah, that's right, so 32,960. Administration and utilities to general fund. We had proposed at 40,000, I think that's still a sound number. Excuse me,
so
but
that
now,
will be done on a monthly basis? The division of
we
that,
were
monthly payments?
either do it monthly, but I think we were originally looking at doing those aspects in a quarterly fashion, weren't we?
We did a monthly last year.
Yeah, well then, if that's what we did, and it was working.
What utilities is that gonna take care of?
That takes care of all the electrical, heat.
Yeah. They put it all in.
Internet.
Water, sewer, because we don't pay water, sewer so much here, but south side we do. I mean, it's ours, but we still pay to it.
That's phone, internet, right?
Phone, and no, phone would be under.
Phone's on its own.
Phone.
Yeah,
Phone should be
but
on
it
there.
would, and internet, I believe, is on its own as well.
It is. What's
And so this
utilities,
was, utilities would be electric.
down further,
Yes.
what's utilities / system?
That would encapsulate the utilities that are used at our lift stations, our booster stations, so the power and heat, you know,
Okay.
anything to those.
So, to wrangle everybody back in before we get too far, we need to actually encompass, all the salaries so that we can come up with the social security and break that in and plug that in, since we're here at this moment.
So I have all the salaries, clerical, the 30,000.
You have 130,000 for laborers, which some of these costs will, because we won't have to be, effectively covering as part-time some of the ancillary costs, correct? Medicare,
Did we just put our social security in that? 'Cause you're
Really,
right.
that
Just
extra,
social security.
well, that extra 30,000 budgeted for that wouldn't incorporate any of that, so.
No insurance and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so really, you're just the
Okay.
I've
100,000.
already subtracted the 30.
okay, so life insurance, Dearborn,
How many employees do we have? So it'll be 5,
5 employees.
am I correct, Nate? I'm almost positive.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yes.
5. What are you
We're
looking
at
at? What number are you
350.
giving us?
I'm here ready to,
No, which, what's the number?
it's life insurance,
Oh, okay.
Dearborn.
Okay.
For 5 employees, it's $298.
So we had it proposed at 350, 300.
Sure.
Yeah.
Employer social security,
So that's with all
Yep.
those salaries, it's
Not the 30,000.
social
Oh, no,
security.
she has
That's
that.
right, I just realized, my
So-
fault.
That's okay. It's $14,754
Medicare,
is $3,451.
and then getting away from those, getting back to Blue Cross Blue Shield, I'm sorry about that. I have Blue Cross Blue Shield, for the DPW department at, $27,203. Okay.
Going down, eh?
But then we,
Well, and there again, if we're bringing in the potential of hiring 2 new employees, and we don't know if they're gonna be a single or a family plan, we have to anticipate, I would tend to leave it where it stands at 48.
Okay.
Hopefully see a reduction. Vehicle insurance was sound at 5,000. Unit shares, pension John Hancock,
So I took out the 30,000.
Correct.
I'm on 19,757.
okay. HSA contribution, which I have here, is at 2,600 currently, which doesn't make,
Kelly should be in there,
yeah, so.
and then you're the two new ones.
So with Kelly included would be 3,900 and the potential to be an additional 52 at the high end if it's a family plan.
So 10 or whatever.
I would put it at 10 even. Workers' compensation,
Here you go, Steve.
Well,
we had it at 9,000,
there
but
should be a janitorial code.
She has elected water,
Okay,
$5.38.
so we don't have to worry about the one
No.
staffers, so that would be 175,000.
So we wouldn't have to pay workers' comp on the three.
What was that rate again?
Plus the
$5.38.
32, don't forget about the 32,960, because that's still part of it. The 100,000 is for the laborers,
Right.
and then there's an additional 32,960 for the clerical.
Yeah, no. Yeah,
Plus
that's-
the
that's-
director.
Plus the
I
director.
knew.
Okay.
So $5.38.
Yeah, so you got $941 on the one, and then the clerical,
It's 27 cents.
we're whopping $9, so we're gonna burn off about $950 on your workers' compensation.
because we had it as a proposed and a recommended at 9,000, did I add up?
Hold on just a second, hold on,
Yeah.
hold on, hold on. My, 100, hang it up. Yeah, we can leave it there.
Yeah, because I think it was closer to
So leave it at 9.
9,000. Legal, as previously discussed, $100,000. And since we have, would you like to, I think I did a fair job of
Explaining to the board what I,
explain to me, yes. And we had witness and video, and now we have DPW director. But,
well, I, years ago, it was set up that all residents had the utilization of the hydrants in the community, and that it would be paid out of the township's budget. Am I stating that correctly? Out of the township's general fund budget to help pay for the usages, to keep those hydrants in good operation. We started out, it was $50,000, and then we upped it when the new line went on out 23 South. The township board upped it to $75,000, and that was to pay for the maintenance or new hydrants or whatever the water department needed, and that was for to come out of all the taxpayers, so that just the water system, water and sewer system wasn't paying for that. It was coming, they were being billed an amount out of the, so that you had access to the hydrants. All property owners do,
Out of the general fund.
from
But that
out of
was-
the general
that
fund.
was-
and that's the caveat, because that's where it used to lie in the general fund, and now it's in the public safety fund. So,
Well, wherever you put it in.
Yeah.
Public safety is no different than the roads or whatever. That's where we had it in, I think, also.
no, you didn't have a public safety fund at that point. We actually created a
If you
public
go
safety-
back and look, there was,
Well, anyway, it doesn't.
Anyway.
But we have it now
you
corresponding.
name it may be a little bit different, but it's whatever. And so what would happen is all the residents, because we all play into the tax general fund, would be paying a portion to the water department of $75,000 for the use of the hydrants. Now, the water usage and all that is always billed differently. That comes out of the fire department or out of the neighboring communities to help pay for it. But $75,000 a year was to pay for the use of any hydrant in the township for the general public. I mean, not that they can just go hook up
Yeah,
to
they
it.
can't fill a pool up with it.
No,
Yeah.
no, no, no. It was just so we had access to them.
Yeah.
And it was to help maintain the upkeep on that portion, either repairs or replacement or whatever the water department needed.
Okay.
Do you have any questions?
No, it's a little convoluted, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, because you live in that water system, so we pay for it. I live in that same water system, but I have a brother that lives outside that water
You
system.
know, I understand.
And he would get the same, would get the same benefit as I do by us paying a portion to the water department out of the tax bill.
I get it.
So, but that's where it's at. It's in public safety under expenditure and water department as revenue. So they
Yeah.
correspond.
Okay.
Moving on, really the only other few items that we need to address are bond principal water. That is line item 592-100-903-000. This was the bond for the 23 South expansion. We had it at an amended budget of $236,400. This year's activity was at $200,000. The proposed this year was at $261,200. And there again, it's a depreciative cost.
This would be going down.
So I would suggest that we actually take that either down to 200,000 even, or slightly above, just to
By this time, we're probably paying more
Less
on the
than.
principal than we are on the interest, right?
probably. So,
Take that down. I'd take that down to 200.
okay,
Can I back up just a quick second?
well, the interest is
Well,
the
wait a
next
second,
line.
interest, next line.
Yeah. Yes, Norm?
No, go ahead, finish that, okay, get the interest first.
Well, the interest, as you see, I mean,
Probably going down.
it's starting to go down. But we had